Alrighty. Well, we just finished Jeremiah, so we are gonna do a quick two-weeker through Lamentations. I thought it'd be good to go through just because I think one of the things that sometimes is missed in our Bible study, or just in Bible studies in general, partially just because we don't really go through certain books like Job or Psalms as often, but I think kind of the tone and the message of Lamentations, I feel like it kind of lands it along the same as like the other wisdom literature. Like it's not usually where it sits in the Bible as far as I'm aware, but I kind of feel like this would fit well in the wisdom literature just because.
So in the Hebrew Bible, that's kind of where it's at.
It is where it's at? Okay.
Yeah.
To me, that's what it kind of feels like to me, because Lamentations is one of those books where even though, we would say that Jeremiah is the one who probably wrote it, and it narratively follows right after Jeremiah and 2 Kings. The takeaway from it is it gives off something where there is wisdom to be drawn from it, and something that's just before we hop into the actual book, something that is good to always bring up is that something you see in books like Ecclesiastes and some Psalms and Job and books like that is just aside from reading books for just like different theological takeaways and stuff, they're also just like describing people's responses to God and people wrestling through life. Ecclesiastes is a very good example where it's not it's a guy who's just wrestling with life, trying to find meaning apart from God, basically trying to understand anything really. And so I think in the same way, Lamentations is good because it also just shows that sometimes, it isn't a bad thing to voice your concerns to God and ask the question, why? Something that we sometimes don't talk much about because we're almost afraid to, I think.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, so in particular, Lamentations in the Hebrew Bible, it's in what it's called the 5 Megillot, which is like the 5 scrolls. And it's one of 5 scrolls that is read on different Jewish holidays. So there's Ruth, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Esther, and Lamentations. And they're all read different stuff. So like Esther is read on Purim. Ecclesiastes, I believe, is read on Feast of Tabernacles, I think. Song of Solomon is read on Purim. Ruth is read, I believe, at the Feast of Weeks, I think, because it's like I believe because it's about harvest and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then this is read on the 9th of Av, which is basically the holiday that mourns the fall of the temple.
Oh, okay.
And interestingly, according to Jewish tradition, the temple fell, like both when it was destroyed by the Babylonians and by the Romans, it fell on the same day, which is the 9th of Av. Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know if there's like historical backing to that or if it's just a tradition, but yeah, so this is like every 9th of Av when that rolls around, they go through this book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well, so, and last thing before we hop in, just aside from what I was saying earlier, but as far as like context within the Bible as a whole, so we just finished Jeremiah, and this basically just kind of picks up right in the happening and aftermath of really just the fall of Jerusalem. And so this is like, it kind of seems like it's taking place kind of just during and after. Like it talks about an ongoing stuff while also looking back on just as a whole, Jerusalem and the temple being destroyed. And so we'll explore that as we go through, but just a couple things to maybe bring up because we went through Jeremiah, a couple themes that kind of bleed into this book. Well, one, just the seriousness of what's happening and what it actually means to the people of the time period and to us, but just the destruction of the temple being like at the time the biggest, most important, like most serious thing that's happened in Jewish history. So it's a very important thing. And then also, if you remember when we were going through Jeremiah, one thing we talked a lot about was, is there a balm in Gilead? Mm-hmm. And the idea was that the Jewish people, that Judah, that Israel had this affliction that they couldn't be healed from. And we're going to see that theme throughout this book as well, is that there is this incurable condition that Israel's afflicted with. So just keep that in mind as we go through, because it will be very much the same thing of, is there a balm in Gilead? Is there anything else I wanted to mention before we hop in?
One other thing I'll mention, just because this kind of sets up where we're heading after Lamentations, because after Lamentations we're going into Daniel, and we're going to go a little bit more in depth. We're going to take our time like one chapter at a time. And I wanted to highlight how these kind of fit together, because Daniel, if you remember, whenever Nebuchadnezzar came during the Babylonian exile, like there were 3 different waves of the Babylonian exile, right? And Daniel was taken away during the very first one. And so at the time period that the final set, like, I guess Jeremiah is not necessarily written in like strictly chronological order, but like the later components of Jeremiah, as well as the book of Lamentations, they're being written at a time period when Daniel is already over in Babylon. So I just want you to keep that in mind in the back of your head, so that whenever we go to the book of Daniel, you can keep in mind that Jeremiah and Daniel are contemporaries. Right? Jeremiah is in Jerusalem when it falls. Daniel, Daniel is in many ways kind of supposed to be like a Joseph-like figure in the book of Genesis. You know how Joseph goes off to Egypt and he rises to a place of prominence to prepare a place for his people whenever they come to Egypt? That's kind of how Daniel is. And so Daniel, like Joseph, he's like a dreamer who goes off to a foreign land, he rises to a place of prominence, and he prepares the way so that whenever the people come in exile, he can kind of take care of them. So I just want you to keep that in mind, because that's where we're heading. And this story takes place like whenever we get to Daniel, I want you to keep this story in mind, because you need to read this story into the context of Daniel. Like, you've got to realize, like, this is what the Jewish people just went through or about to go through. And that's going to shape how you read that story then. So just keep that in mind as we go through this. So
That's true. Okay. With that being said, we can go ahead and hop in. How lonely sits the city that was great with people. She has become like a widow who was once great among the nations. She who was a princess among the provinces has become a forced laborer. She weeps bitterly in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. She has none to comfort her among all her lovers. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her. They have become her enemies. Judah has gone into exile because of affliction and because of great slavery. She sits among the nations, but she has found no rest. All her pursuers have overtaken her in the midst of distress. The roads of Zion are in mourning because no one comes to the appointed times. All her gates are desolate. Her priests are sighing. Her virgins are grieving, and herself is bitter. Her adversaries have become her masters. Her enemies are complacent, for Yahweh has caused her grief because of the greatness of her transgressions. Her infants have gone away as captives before the adversary. So all her majesty has gone out from the daughter of Zion. Her princes have become like deer that have found no pasture, so they have fled without strength before the pursuer. In the days of her affliction and homelessness, Jerusalem remembers all her precious things that were from the days of old. When her people fell into the hands of the adversary and no one helped her, the adversaries saw her and they laughed at her ruin. Jerusalem sinned greatly, therefore she has become an impure thing. All who honored her despise her because they have seen her nakedness. Even she herself sighs and turns away. Her uncleanness was in her skirts. She did not remember her future. Therefore she has gone down astonishingly. She has no comforter. See, O Yahweh, my affliction, for the enemy has magnified himself. The adversary has stretched out his hand over all her desirable things, for she has seen the nations enter her sanctuary, the ones whom you commanded that they should not enter into your assembly. All her people are sighing, seeking bread. They have given their desirable things for food to restore their souls. See, O Yahweh, and look, for I am despised. Is it nothing to all you who pass this way? Look and see if there is any pain like my pain, which was dealt severely to me, which Yahweh grieved me with the day of his burning anger. From on high he sent fire into my bones, and it dominated them. He has spread a net for my feet. He has turned my back. He has made me desolate, for I faint all day long. The yoke of my transgression is bound. By his hand they are knit together. They have come upon my neck. He has made my strength stumble. The Lord has given me into the hands of those against whom I am not able to stand. The Lord has rejected all my mighty men in my midst. He has called an appointed time against me, to break my young men. The Lord has trodden as in a winepress the virgin daughter of Judah. For these things I am weeping. My eyes run down with water, because from far from me is a comforter, one who restores my soul. My children are desolate, because the enemy has prevailed. Zion stretches out her hands. There is no one to comfort her. Yahweh has commanded concerning Jacob that the ones round about him should be his adversaries. Jerusalem has become an impure thing among them. Yahweh is righteous, for I have rebelled against his command. Hear now, all peoples, and behold my pain. My virgins and my young men have gone into captivity. I called to my lovers, but they deceived me. My priests and my elders breathed their last in the city, while they sought food for themselves in order to restore their souls. See, O Yahweh, for I am in distress. My innermost being is greatly disturbed. My heart is overturned within me, for I have been very rebellious. In the street the sword bereaves, in the house it is like death. They have heard that I am sighing. There is no one to comfort me. All my enemies have heard of the evil done to me. They rejoice that you have done it. You have brought the day which you have proclaimed, so that they will become like me. Let all their evil come before you, and deal severely with them as you have dealt severely with me, for all my transgressions. For my groans are great, and my heart is faint. Alrighty. What happens?
There is sorrow and crying.
Yep.
I'm going to say in verses 1 and 2, some marriage-like imagery. How I can kind of correlate that to God having a relationship with them. And then what really stuck out to me was in verse 2 is, bitterly she weeps at night, tears on her cheeks, among all her lovers, there is no one to comfort her. So the way I see that is like maybe other false gods that they worshipped, and they're not real, so they're not going to be there to comfort her. So.
So, first question is, again, just like in like a sentence or so, what happens in this chapter? Because it's relatively simple as far as what actually happens.
It seems like this is like a dirge, where basically the author is lamenting the fall of the city.
Yeah. And there is a lot of
humiliation of the city, I guess. But.
Yeah, and there is a lot of like personification in here, and like what would you say is like the main personification? Like how is Jerusalem is the city that was once great with people, and throughout the text it seems like Jerusalem is singing like it's personified as a person. Like how are they personified? Like what are they described as?
Very negatively, like everything they loved has left them. There's no one there for them, no one to support them, no one to wipe their tears away. Like everything good from them is just gone.
Like, or I guess what I mean is like who? Like if you had like they're being described as like kind of like a certain kind of person. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Oh.
So, like what are they being compared to?
Desolate land, maybe? Wait, no wait. That's what I
Well,
was
it's
thinking.
being compared to a woman.
Yeah.
Through a lot of it.
Maybe like a cheating woman who has realized the weight of her sins.
Well, the way if you look at verses 1 and 2, it's like she's like a princess who has become a slave. And I don't know if like that, like I'd have to pay more attention to a lot of the other stuff, but like it seems like it's using very royal language for a lot of it. So it's like a queen or a princess, but she has now become like slave labor.
Yeah.
So it's like the reversal of like a fairy tale. It's like It's like the queen became Cinderella. Like it's the opposite.
Yeah, and I guess like it's not a consistent thing throughout the whole thing, but like it kind of gives off like that, or like almost like a woman who's like lost her children, like a grieving widow, and there's like no one to comfort her children being lost. And I think there is imagery of like her saying like that her children have been like taken captive.
And one thing that I think is worthwhile doing as we do this study, since we're doing these in like bigger chunks and stuff, which I don't know if you were planning on talking about this later, but like the whole acrostic aspect.
Yeah, I meant to bring that up earlier, I guess, but we should probably bring it up.
Okay. So I'll just bring this up just so it's something we can pay attention to. It seems like, so the book of Lamentations is 5 chapters long, right? And it seems like it consists of 5 separate poems, right? To where each chapter is its own individual poem, but they all like tie together to form a consistent theme. And the reason we know that is because the 4 first chapters are each acrostics. And basically an acrostic is, it's like every verse that you see there, it begins with a different letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And it literally, so verse 1 literally begins with the first letter in the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph. And then the second verse begins with Bet. And then the third verse begins with Gimel. The fourth verse begins with Dalet. And it goes all the way down. So the 22nd verse is the Tav, right? This is the final letter. And so you see that for chapter 1. And then chapter 2. So you'll notice chapters 1 and chapter 2 both have 22 verses. Chapter 3, it's organized a little bit differently, I believe. To where chapter 3 ends up having
It's 66 verses.
Yeah, it has 66 verses. So basically 3 verses per letter. And then chapter 4, once again, has 22 verses, right? And then chapter 5 is the only one that's not an acrostic.
Yeah.
And so I mainly wanted to highlight that because that kind of indicates to us that these are kind of like 5 separate poems that are all being weaved together. So it seems like each chapter should probably have its own dominant theme. And then we could also talk about why maybe they did the whole acrostic thing, but I don't know if we want to get into the weeds of that.
No, I mean, we can talk about it a little bit here and there. But yeah, we will notice that there is a pretty big shift between each chapter in the tone, the themes, and kind of who's speaking. The only thing I guess bring up really quickly is it's maybe worth noting how in the first chapters it's the tone is very grieving, but there's order to it. Whereas when you get closer to the end, it's less orderly. By the time you get to chapter 5, it's it almost describes the tone of the person writing. It's where by the end of it, they're just it's chaotic.
Yeah.
It's undoing.
Yeah. Well, which makes sense for the last chapter. There's no structure because it almost represents the nation. It's the structure of the book represents what's happening in the nation.
The state of the nation.
Yeah, it's total collapse.
Yeah, so by the end of it, there is no acrostic or anything. It's just, and so from that perspective, it is there's chaos ensuing.
Yeah.
Both physically in the nation, but also mentally, the state of mind of the speaker. It's they're torn apart.
Yeah.
But yeah. Other than that, so what else? Is there anything else that stuck out to y'all in these first few chunks? So Jerusalem is described as a grieving widow, a grieving woman, grieving, what else is being described here? So this is all during the actual exile and the siege. But
so to me it seems the pervasive the pervasive thing that's sticking out to the author is the emptiness.
Yeah.
Right? It's just so when you're reading it, I really like the first few verses, just how it immediately jumps you into it. It's very poetic, how lonely sits the city that was great with people. Literally just that line by itself.
Yeah.
You already get a feel for how the whole book's gonna be. It's it almost reminds me of stories of Camelot or something like that. It's this amazing kingdom of the past, and now it's he's just looking and being what happened? It's and then but then it keeps going. She has become a widow that once was great among the nations. She so in the first few lines, again, you don't want to we don't want to get too in the weeds. Yeah. But he starts off by emphasizing how small they are now in comparison to how big they once were, right? How lonely was the one who was great. A widow was the one who was great amongst the nations. But then on the third verse time, it's she who was a princess has become a laborer. So it's he flips it and says, now I'm going to start with how she was and now what she is.
Yeah.
Towards from a poetic perspective, it's the first 2 ones emphasize the emotion, but then the last one is well, no, this is who she was and this is what I'm going to leave you with the thought of.
Yeah.
And then it goes into the next stanza. And I don't know, it immediately jumps you into it where you're ooh, that's rough.
Yeah. And yeah, when you put it that way, also, I would say the first verse, it kind of does, it's not the entire chapter per se, but it does kind of summarize the 2 main things that are happening with Jerusalem, because it is kind of, it's the first part is becoming a widow. It's emphasizing the destruction, a widow who's lost all her kids, and it's she's grieving her loss. Again, go back to Genesis 3, where God says, "I will multiply your pain in childbearing," and the idea is again and again, they're gonna, they're awaiting someone to save them, and in vain, like their sons will kill each other, and it's all these like grieving. And then the other part is about not just the destruction, but also like the status. And so it's like, again, both the destruction and humiliation, like you mentioned earlier. And that kind of does set the tone going forward.
Yeah. And then you go to verse 2, and it's, instead of talking from the perspective of the author, this is where you talk about the personification, it goes into the perspective of the city itself. Right? She weeps bitterly in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. She has none to comfort her among all her lovers. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her, and they have become her enemies. So like, and just the metaphor has changed. She's no longer a widow who is like grieving her husband or her children. Now she's a harlot. It's like, which is the opposite. It's like, because like basically this is like where he's like rebuking her, because he's saying, no, you did this to yourself. You don't have the luxury of being a widow. A widow can't a widow can't help it if her husband dies, but you chase after other lovers. And so it's like, it's almost like she's a widow whose husband died while she was in bed with another man. Yeah. It's like, it changes it, but also he's not outright rebuking her yet. But he's implying the rebuke, but right now he's empathizing with her, right? It's almost like the mistress was in bed with another man whenever she learned that her husband died, but that doesn't take away from the pain of learning that your husband died.
Yeah.
But it's almost like he's saying, hold on, we're going to address the harlot thing later on, right? It's like, so later on in the book, we're going to address the fact that you were cheating. But for right now, he's just emphasizing that Jerusalem is in like this state of like shock, and like even her lovers can't comfort her, right? It's like she has like all these lovers, and none of them are able to be like, hey, it's okay. Like it's like, no, there's no consolation. Her husband is dead. I just love the imagery there, to where it's like, it's scandalous, but also filled with compassion. To where the author is at once acknowledging that she did this to herself, but all because she did it to herself doesn't mean that you should just be like, ha, you're getting what you deserve. Like, that's, I mean, that's probably a lesson that people need to, like Christians need to learn even in our present culture and climate. There's so many Christians who, like, whenever something bad happens to, like, somebody who's doing the wrong thing, people are like, oh, they're getting what they deserve. You see this on the news, especially, like, the last few weeks. It's like, well, okay, they might be getting what they deserve, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't have compassion. That's like, you have to do both. And that's especially true right here, with it's like, it's the people of God who did this to themselves.
But
it's a tough middle ground. You have to realize consequences have actions, but you can't just be completely like, you get what you deserve and move on with your life.
Well, I think you have to do both. Like, that's the thing. It's like you have to say actions have consequences, but also have compassion. Like they one doesn't negate the other.
You put yourself into their shoes. If you feel what they're feeling, but you don't make what they did, like you don't let. I'm getting confused about what I want to say, but you don't make it right. What they did was wrong, but you feel for them, like pray for them.
Yeah, you have empathy.
Yeah, empathy.
You don't justify, right? I think it's just worth pointing out that, like, again, just having the feelings that are being expressed here is not explicitly like looked down upon. It is okay to have like these, like in this case the feelings are okay. But it's also pointing out like where they're coming from.
And then in verse 3, you have like I'm trying to like just summarize each of the verses. Verse 3, you have the motion of Judah leaving the city, right? Because they're going into exile. And then as a result, in verse 4, the roads of Zion are in mourning because no one comes to the appointed times. All her gates are desolate. Like, the idea is that they're gone for a while. And so whenever feast days arrive, nobody shows up for Passover. Nobody shows up for tabernacles. It's like the city's desolate, so it's like
a ghost town.
Yeah, it's literally just like a ghost town, and like that. It's just so eerie. Verse 5: her adversaries have become her masters. Her enemies are complacent. Yahweh has caused her grief because of the greatness of her transgressions. Her infants have gone away as captives before the adversary. So verse 5 is like the first place where he's like, okay, here, like this is where he like kind of like finally gives the explanation. It's like, this is why it happened. It was because of her sin. Yahweh's the one who sent her into exile. And now, her enemies are her masters. Which is also ironic, because her enemies were also kind of her lovers. And so it's like, verse 5 is the first time where he's finally like, this is her fault. But again, he says it with compassion. I'm not going to go through like every single verse, but I just wanted to like highlight that there's like a flow of the thought here from one to the next.
Yeah, and again, a big thing being emphasized here is, like you said, the emptiness, but also just like the helplessness of the situation. Like they have gotten themselves in a situation they can't get out of, because they didn't take God's word seriously enough. And yeah, so like you get to verse 7, and they're looking back on the days of old, and then again we get back and we get into like the whole, just the idea of being humiliated. Like all the nations saw her fall, and but now they're mocking her, which is all stuff that God said would happen.
Yeah.
In Deuteronomy 32.
You do what's right, yeah, you get blessed. If you don't do the right thing, you get cursed.
Yeah.
Core of the whole Old Testament, pretty much.
Yeah, and again, verse 8, it reiterates why they're in this situation, because ultimately they did this to themselves, but like ultimately what has happened to them is terrible, but again, it's something that they did to themselves, and so God acted like he said he would do. But
Sorry, just keep talking.
oh no, you're good. So yeah, it says that Jerusalem sinned greatly, therefore she has become an impure thing. And this was something that was a theme throughout Jeremiah, as we talked about, was that it wasn't like this was really a new thing. It was that that Israel had been consistent. They were constantly being impure, but this was the tipping point where God said He's going to reveal that to everybody. And so this was like the exile was the moment where everyone where everyone got to see just how unfaithful Israel had been.
Yeah, and then when we talk about that turning point again back in 2 Kings, it was what's the name of that king? Begins with an M. Manasseh, yes.
Yeah, and also going back to verse 7 real quick, just because I just love the phrase. In the days of her affliction and homelessness, Jerusalem remembers all her precious things that were from the days of old, when her people fell into the hand of the adversary and no one helped her. Like just the idea that like now that things are actually bad, Jerusalem realizes how good she had it.
Yeah.
It's like you never realize what you have until you lose it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what's going on here, where it's like Deuteronomy 32, where it says when Jeshurun grew fat and kicked. Like the idea is like whenever God spoiled Israel, they rebelled against Him. And it's because they wanted more, right? It's like literally Solomon, at the height of his kingdom, rebels against God. And then it just gets worse. And ironically, it's getting worse for them as they're pursuing greatness. Bless you. And so I just love like the imagery of that, where it's like now that she's in exile, she realizes how good she had it. And it's kind of like a woman who cheats on her faithful husband to chase after some guy that she thinks can give her everything. And then all of a sudden, like, you fast forward 6 months and, like, she's, like, living in, like, a tiny apartment with him. They're, like, high on drugs and, like, both, like, no jobs or anything like that. And they're just, like, sitting there and she realizes, what did I give up? Like, it's like, she's like, oh, no, this is the life I chased after. It's like, whereas, like, she had this, like, faithful husband who was providing for her, and they lived in, like, a big house, and, like, she didn't have to work because he just provided, like.
Yeah, or even worse, the guy that she goes through with, like, ends up not wanting her anymore and just abandoned her. And so it's like she lost everything. Like, she gave up the faithful guy for the guy who didn't stick around. Yeah. And so it's like you're left with nothing. Yeah. And so I don't know. It's just so sad. Which then leads to verse 8. Jerusalem sinned greatly. Verse 9. Her uncleanness was in her skirts. She did not remember her future. But I think it's also just so interesting how, even as he's saying this, like, that's very crass language, right? Because again, it's talking, like, uncleanness in her skirts. It's talking about, like the imagery nowadays would be either, like, just, what he's saying is she slept around. Yeah. But again, it implies, like, the idea of, like, sexually transmitted diseases, what we call them nowadays. Yeah. Like, the idea is, like, if you lifted her skirts, you would see that she's been up to some, like, no good. But even the way that he talks about it, even, like, he's saying very crass things, but he's saying it with this heart of compassion. Right, where it's like, therefore she has gone down astonishingly, she has no comforter. And it's like you wouldn't typically expect that to be the response. Like, it's like, no, you're getting what you deserve. You ditched this amazing guy to go sleep around. You get what you deserve. But instead he's like, no one's there to comfort her. Like, and like, he's sad about it.
And again, it's because Jeremiah's not named in the book, but according to universal tradition, Jeremiah's the one who wrote it. And it's because this is his city, it's like.
Yeah, we saw this back in the book of Jeremiah too. He's not happy about having to deliver this message of destruction, so it makes perfect sense as to why he's like, yes, they got what they deserved, but I'm still going to feel remorse for it because it's my city and it's where I'm from.
And ironically, that's how God feels about it too,
Yeah.
right? It's like God loves the people of Jerusalem. He loves Jerusalem. It's like, but
They disobeyed.
like they needed this, from Paul's perspective, like I said, I've been in Galatians a lot lately. I've been saying this the last few weeks, but from Paul's perspective, this was necessary in order for them to realize the depth of their wickedness.
Yeah.
Like it was necessary for them to taste the curse of the Torah, because if they never experienced that, they would never realize their need for faith. If they didn't experience this exile, they would never realize their need for somebody else to make them righteous. And that's why it's very fitting that Jeremiah is the one who says, God's going to make a new covenant, and he's going to give you a new heart. So it all kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Let's see. Going into verse 10. The adversary has stretched out his hand over all her desirable things, for she has seen the nations enter her sanctuary, the ones whom you commanded that they should not enter into your assembly. So that language is interesting because it's saying that the people of Jerusalem saw foreign nations enter into the temple of God, and it was the very nations that God said they shouldn't even enter into the assembly. The idea is these people aren't even permitted to be amongst us, yet they entered into the temple. That's where you dwell. It's this great affront, but that's what they saw happen. And this is what they'll call the abomination of desolation and stuff.
Yeah. That I think it's also just a point of confusion again, because they're just kind of asking the question of why. Why would you let this happen?
Yeah. So literally in Hebrew, the name of the book is not called Lamentations. It's literally called. It's the first word of the book itself, which is I think it's the first word. It's literally just Eka, which just means how. It is how lonely sits the city.
Oh, yeah.
But it's literally the word how. And so, that encapsulates the whole book. It's just how. Which is ironic because it's actually a different context than how it reads in the verse. In the verse, it's how lonely sits the city. But when you just read the name of the book, how? That's how they feel about it. It's how could this have happened? And the answer is sin.
Yeah. Exactly. And then you pick up in verse 11, 12, and again, it's it's the imagery of, and this is something that we'll read throughout this chapter, but also it'll be emphasized a lot next chapter, is just the imagery of all, how all the people are suffering. It's not just one single person, but it is everyone is suffering because of what's happened, whether it was their sin or everyone's suffering because of the sins of the nation.
It keeps repeating the phrase desirable things as well.
That's true. Yeah, before it was that the other nations were grabbing all the desirable things, and now it's saying that they're actually giving them for food. Mm-hmm. Again, it's just they're losing everything. They're having to give it up just to survive. And I guess other question would be who is supposed to restore their souls normally, the people of Israel?
The Good Shepherd.
The Good Shepherd,
Psalm
yes.
23.
Amen.
Yeah.
He restores my soul.
Every day he does.
Yeah. I mean, later on, they even say they're deer, but they can't find pasture.
Yeah. Well, and what's so interesting about this, in verse 11, it says, all her people are sighing, seeking bread. They have given their desirable things for food to restore their souls. So it's them trying to restore their own souls, right?
Yeah.
But then immediately afterwards they say, "See, O Yahweh, and look, for I am despised." It's one of those things where it's they're so close to the answer. It's they're trying to restore their own souls, and then they immediately turn to God and say, "God, look at what's going on here." But ironically, if they could just look to God and say, "God, you can restore our soul," that would be the solution. But instead, all they can do is look to God and kind of complain.
Yeah.
And it's
I feel it kind of reads two ways, because I think in one way, like, that's true. I do think there's also a degree of, like, the implication is, like, God is not providing for them. Like, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like, it's, like, God is supposed to be the one restoring their souls, but, like, it would be, like, either a question of, like, either they're not turning to God, or it's that God has actually, like, withdrawn his hand.
Yeah.
And so they become desperate.
Okay.
And so in their desperation, like, they're having to give up their desirable things for food. Either way, God is the one who should be restoring their souls. He should be the one providing the bread, like, literally and metaphorically.
To put it simply, because they did not allow him to restore their souls in former times, he has now left them to restore their own souls now.
Yeah.
And also there's the whole pun about, like, the word soul, like nefesh being throat as well. So it's literally like, like they're giving up food and therefore they have nothing to put down their throat. Like they literally cannot restore their throat, their souls.
Yeah, because this is also a theme throughout, like, a lot of the Psalms where, like, it's from the perspective of people who are, like, experiencing just, like, suffering on account of, like, sin, whether it's, like, punishment for sin or whether it's, like, unrepentant sin. And usually the imagery is, like, of, like, your bones hurting, and it's, like, the idea of, like thirsting at your throat, but, like, it can't be quenched. And so I guess, again, the same thing here. It could be, like, that it's a result of sin either way. But yeah, just as a whole, like, the people are suffering because of what happened.
Verse 12. Is it nothing to all you who pass this way? Look and see if there is any pain like my pain, which was dealt severely to me, which Yahweh grieved me with on the day of his burning anger.
Yeah.
It's like, I just like that. Like, see if there's any pain like my pain. In general, I don't like when people talk like that. Like this is like whenever somebody tells you, it's like, you couldn't possibly understand what I'm going through. Like, that's kind of what they're saying here. But in a poetic context, it makes sense because the whole point of poetry is to evoke emotion, and in a context like this, you're trying to express anguish. Whenever somebody on your day-to-day basis is like, you just couldn't possibly understand what I'm going through right now, that annoys me because I'm like, okay, maybe I can't, but maybe I can. You know, like our situations aren't exactly unique. But for Jerusalem, it makes sense, right? They are the chosen people of God, who God has specifically gone out of his way to destroy in burning anger because of their sin. To be fair, there are very few people who have experienced a context exactly like that. And so, yes, we can't understand your exact amount of pain. But I don't know. Normally I get annoyed when people talk like that, but here I actually love, like just like the
language.
The language. If there's any pain like my pain. But it's ironic because they could have avoided it. And they're like, they say, Yahweh has dealt severely to me, which Yahweh grieved me with on the day of his burning anger. But, like, the idea is, like at the same time, you did this to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's a two-sided coin here, to where, I don't know. Were you going to say something?
Well, I was going to say, like, if the people of Judah and Israel are saying, you know, see if there's any pain like mine, God's response would be like Jeremiah 2, where he says, look and see if there's been a thing like this. Where he says, like, has a nation ever changed gods? Yeah. And he's like, it's kind of like a, not really, but kind of like
it's the crime.
Yeah, kind of like an eye for eye, tooth for tooth type thing. It's like, for a crime that no one's ever really seen, it's pain that no one's ever seen.
Experience, yeah.
Yeah. And same thing. From on high, he sent fire into my bones and it dominated them. He has spread a net for my feet. This is like kind of both language from like Psalms, but also from like even Deuteronomy, where it's the idea of like God said he would like set a trap for them. Mm-hmm. He would set a snare for them, and also the idea of like the fire in my bones. Like again, this is I think it's Psalm like 33 or something, where it's like David's talking about like his bones aching on the inside, and it's like from him like it's from his sin.
Yeah,
I think I do see one minor application to this thing here, and this goes back to what you just said about like it is easier. Again, he's using a hyperbole here, but it's the idea of he's like saying that it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to get into heaven. It's saying like, look, the more wealth and the more worldly things you accumulate, the more you are distracted. Mm-hmm. Then it's much more hard to focus on God because you have like all this fog and all these things kind of in your way that are constantly distracting you. Yeah. So again, that's just something I see.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
And then going into like verse 14, the yoke of my transgression is bound. So it's like I like just tracing the movement of the poem to where like finally in verses like 12 and 13, it's like okay, verse 12 says God is the one doing this to me. Verse 13 is like showing how like God laid the trap, but then verse 14, the yoke of my transgression is bound. By His hand they are knit together. Like and so like this is where it comes into full picture where it's like yes, but the reason God is doing this is because of my sin, right?
Yeah.
And like the idea is like the yoke of my transgression, it's the slavery of my sin, and the idea of it being bound is it's like we've sold ourselves into slavery. And again, I like this because Galatians, Paul's whole thing is he says, yeah, when you were under the law, you were like a slave. And that's exactly what they're saying here. They're saying, yes, because of the law and our transgression of the law, we are now bound to slavery. And by God's hand, they're knit together, right? God's the one who gave the law. And because God is faithful, and because we were unfaithful, God has to punish us, right? This is the necessary consequence of our actions. And once again, did all the people in Jerusalem feel this way? Probably not, because they were unfaithful. But this is Jeremiah the prophet who is analyzing this, and he says, we did this to ourselves, right? Yeah. He has made my strength stumble. The Lord has given me into the hands of those against whom I am not able to stand. The Lord has rejected all my mighty men in my midst. And again, it's speaking from the perspective of, like, I'm assuming Jerusalem itself, right? Yeah, He has called an appointed time against me to break my young men. The Lord has trodden as in a winepress the virgin daughter of Judah. Hold on to that imagery because it shows up in Revelation. Whenever Jesus shows up and He trods people like a winepress. For these things I am weeping. That's what really lets you know this is from Jerusalem's perspective, because back in verse 2 it said she weeps bitterly in the night. Yeah. But now Jerusalem says, for these things I am weeping, my eyes run down with water. Is that the same exact? So it said in verse 2, she weeps bitterly in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. And so now this one says, for these things I am weeping, my eyes run down with water. So it's the same imagery. Tears running down the cheeks, eyes running down with water. It's just two ways of saying the same thing. Because far from me is a comforter, one who restores my soul. So there's that same language again. My children are desolate because the enemy has prevailed. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of summarizing everything.
Yeah.
It's this punishment for their sin that they can't be comforted from. And also but it is also saying like the one who is comforting is the one who restores my soul. God is far from them. Like they can feel like God is far from them.
Yeah.
And that's why they can't, like as in earlier, like they are desperately trying to restore their own soul.
Yeah.
Because God isn't close to them.
Yeah.
So God is far away. Like God hid His face from them, and then her children are desolate, whether they're off taken into captivity or they're killed. And because the enemies prevailed, so God has delivered them into their hands.
Yeah. So Zion stretches out her hands. There is none to comfort. Like I just love the emphasis. It keeps going back to it. None to comfort. None to like. If that was the only thing you took away from this whole chapter, it gets the point across. There's none to comfort. None to comfort. Yeah. Yahweh has commanded concerning Jacob that the ones round about him should be his adversaries. Jerusalem has become an impure thing among them. So like on one hand it said that God has weakened my mighty men, and He has basically strengthened my adversaries. Like the ones who like the people who round about Jerusalem are not mighty men there to save them. It's their adversaries there to destroy them. And then verse 18, Yahweh is righteous, for I have rebelled against His command. Hear now, all peoples, behold my pain. My virgins and my young men have gone into captivity. So that last phrase is almost like talking about even the innocent, right? Like the virgin and young men are just like they're the young ones who aren't even marriageable age. They're young, they're innocent, they haven't done anything wrong, but they're carried into captivity because of my sin. Application: sin has consequences, and that's true for us as well. Even as Christians, even people who follow Christ, there's consequences for our actions, and the decisions that you make today could affect your grandchildren. So be careful.
Yeah. Called to my lovers, but they deceived me. My priests and my elders breathed their last in the city, while they sought food for themselves in order to restore their souls. This almost...
Well, it goes back to how like Babylon is essentially like this place to all the poor people, and we're like all the elders, all the rich people, all the princes and nobles, just kill them.
Yeah, well, it also kind of to me at least when I read it, it almost like reframes the earlier verses about like the lovers and stuff. Because when you first read that, to me, I think like, and I think it's both, but like at first when I read it, I only really think of like other nations and like other like external means of like getting comfort.
This is almost scarier.
This is almost scarier because it's not just that, but it's saying like, oh no, the enemies that betrayed Jerusalem, it wasn't just other nations that betrayed Israel. It was within.
There's the priests and the prophets and the kings.
Their own leadership betrayed them. So it's like literally the leadership is the one who handed them into the hands of the Babylonians. And I think.
But the reason it works both ways is because the priests and the kings and the prophets and stuff had started worshiping other gods and relying on like. So the whole thing is that they were giving themselves over to other nations and to other gods.
Yeah.
And that is how they failed the people. And that's why the prophets are constantly getting onto them in particular. Because that's what the prophets are saying. They're like, yeah, you are responsible whenever the city falls. It's on the leaders. And so Jerusalem is lamenting that they're the lovers who failed.
Yeah. And I think it's in this. I think it's even in here too. It's kind of like a random mention, but something that we picked up on in Jeremiah too. Just like specifically like with Edom, just because Edom is like a nearby nation, but like they specifically did betray Jerusalem. They sided with Babylon, and they actually they took over a lot of that land, and so like they also would be a part of like the nations that like betrayed them. But I do think when you get to that verse, it is supposed to be like a twist where it's like,
Edom was one of those nations.
It's not who you expected.
Yeah, it's not who you expected. Because again, it's like with Jeremiah, the two main it was a twofold transgression. It wasn't just it was kind of two things. They didn't listen to Yahweh's voice, but they also chased after other nations.
Yes.
And so in this sense, they did not adhere to the law, and so God also did blind the leadership.
Yeah.
And so it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah. Well, and ironically in here, like the people were trusting in their lovers to nourish their souls, but they say, well, the lovers were only seeking to nourish their own souls, right? It's like that. Like they trusted in their leaders to take care of themselves, but the leaders were only taking care of themselves, right?
Yeah.
While they sought food for themselves in order to restore their souls. It's like the leaders weren't focused on serving the people; they were focused on serving themselves, which is exactly what the prophets got on them about.
Yeah.
And we probably need to go through the other verses a little quick because it's already 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I know. And
But
then, and then you also get back to like the whole golden cat, like not the golden catfish, but I can't remember if they were golden calves or golden bulls, right? That
Golden calves.
were
Yeah.
kind of in the northern
Yeah.
kingdom where they had one up in Beersheba and then one down in Jerusalem, or like
in Bethlehem,
in Bethlehem,
Yeah.
Bethlehem,
Yeah. That and also just like the imagery to me also in verse 19 is like of when you have leaders that are not looking out for their people, it's like when things get tough, to me it also reads as like they're like running away, where it's like the people that they were trusting in, they're not there because they're out, like they either take off, like they're either in the streets with them, unable to help them, or it's like they ran when the times got tough. And that's like the same thing today.
Or they just simply got killed by Babylonians.
Yeah, that too. Yeah,
So-
that's good.
Yeah, in verse 20, they just call out to God and they say, God, I'm in distress. Things are not going great. I've been rebellious. And basically, because of my rebellion, everything's going downhill. And everybody's dying, or, and in verse 21, they have heard that I'm sighing. There's no one to comfort me. Again, the emphasis on comfort, comfort, comfort. Like it seems like chapter 1 is all about no one to comfort. And then the enemies, they've heard the evil that's done to me, and they rejoice that you've done it. So not only does nobody comfort them, but people are actively rejoicing in their downfall.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which God said would happen.
Mm-hmm.
You have brought the day which you have proclaimed, so that they will become like me. And so I think there's a double meaning here. On one hand, it says you have brought the day you have proclaimed, because the prophets foretold this day was coming, right? I mean, that phrase, behold, the day is coming, declares the Lord. That shows up a lot through the prophets, and he says, I'm going to come in judgment. But that's not how that phrase ends. It says, you have brought the day which you have proclaimed, so that they will become like me. And so there's like this extra interpretive thing here to where he's not saying, hey, you brought about the day that you promised so that I would be destroyed. That's what you expect. He says, you have brought this about so that one day you could also destroy them.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the idea is like, you have, like, God promised that Jerusalem would be destroyed, and he has brought about that day so that one day he could actually destroy the Babylonians.
Yeah.
Because that was like so Jeremiah is thinking long term here, right? In the midst of this anguish, he's thinking long term. And he says, but God said, like this goes back to like Habakkuk, where it's like, the righteous will live by faith. This is Jeremiah living by faith in this moment. He's saying, even though right now things look terrible, long term, God is going to work this for good.
Yeah.
And even as the Babylonians destroy you, you've got to realize that they're signing their own death certificate. And therefore, let their evil come before you, and deal severely with them as you have dealt severely with me. For all my transgressions, for my groans are great, my heart is faint. So like the poem ends with like, it's still, things are bad, but you have a more positive outlook, to where it's like, okay, God, the only consolation that I have in this situation is if you promise me that you will judge them for their sins as well, right? You have judged your people, now judge them as well for their sins.
Yeah.
Hold them accountable as well. And so.
Yeah, and I think that in chapter 3 we will get like kind of a, like, when I read it, it reads like a twist as well. And just because like the logic of the author, but it kind of reads as like, if God has both already proclaimed wrath now, but also like, if he's already proclaimed both that he's going to judge the people now but the nations later, then he has to do both or none.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's done one, that's almost like the exile is basically like assurance that he will judge the other nations. Like, he can't do one and not the other.
Yeah.
Which is like an interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Anyways, any other comments on chapter 1?
No, we probably gotta keep going.
Yeah. All right, I'll read through all of chapter 2 first, then we go through. How the Lord has covered the daughter of Zion with a cloud in his anger. He has cast from heaven to earth the beauty of Israel, and has not remembered the footstool of his feet in the day of his anger. The Lord has swallowed up. He has not spared all the habitations of Jacob. In his wrath he has pulled down the strongholds of the daughters of Judah. He has brought them down to the ground. He has profaned the kingdom and its princes. In hot anger he has cut in pieces all the strength of Israel. He has turned back his right hand from before the enemy. And he has burned in Jacob like a flaming fire, devouring roundabouts. He has bent his bow like an enemy. He has set his right hand like an adversary, and killed all that were desirable to the eye. In the tent of the daughter of Zion he has poured out his wrath like fire. The Lord has become like an enemy. He has swallowed up Israel. He has swallowed up all its palaces. He has brought its strongholds to ruin, and multiplied in the daughter of Judah mourning and moaning. And he has violently treated his tabernacle like a garden booth. He has brought his appointed meeting place to ruin. Yahweh has caused to be forgotten the appointed time and Sabbath in Zion. And he has spurned king and priest in the indignation of his anger. The Lord has rejected his altar. He has abandoned his sanctuary. He has delivered into the hand of the enemy the walls of her palaces. They have made a noise in the house of Yahweh, as in the day of an appointed time. Yahweh determined to bring to ruin the wall of the daughter of Zion. He has stretched out a line. He has not turned his hand back from swallowing up, and he has caused rampart and wall to mourn. They have languished together. Her gates have sunk into the ground. He has destroyed and broken her bars. Her king and her princes are among the nations. The law is no more. Also her prophets find no vision from Yahweh. The elders of the daughter of Zion sit on the ground. They are silent. They have thrown dust up on their heads. They have girded themselves with sackcloth. The virgins of Jerusalem have bowed their heads down to the ground. My eyes fail because of tears. My inmost being is greatly disturbed. My heart is poured out on the earth because of the destruction of the daughter of my people, when infants and nursing babies faint in the open squares of the city. They say to their mothers, "Where is grain and wine?" as they faint like a wounded man in those open squares of the city, as their life is poured out of their mother's bosom. What shall I testify about you? To what shall I equate you, O daughter of Jerusalem? To what shall I liken you as I comfort you, O virgin daughter of Zion? For your destruction is as vast as the sea. Who can heal you? Your prophets have beheld for you worthless and ineffective visions. And they have not uncovered your iniquity so as to return you from captivity, but they have beheld you for worthless and misleading oracles. All who pass along the way clap their hands in derision at you. They hiss and shake their heads at the daughter of Jerusalem. Is this the city of which they said, the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? All your enemies have opened their mouths wide against you. They hiss and gnash their teeth. They say, "We have swallowed her up. Surely this is the day for which we have hoped. We have found it. We have seen it." Yahweh has done what he purposed. He has completed his word, which he commanded from days of old. He has pulled down without sparing, and he has caused the enemy to be glad over you. He has exalted the might of your adversaries. Their heart cried out to the Lord, "O wall of the daughter of Zion, let your tears run down like a river day and night. Give yourself no relief. Let your eyes not be still. Arise, cry aloud in the night, at the head of the night watches. Pour out your heart like water before the presence of the Lord. Lift up your hands to him for the life of your infants, who are faint because of hunger at the head of every street. See, O Yahweh, and look, with whom have you dealt thus? Should women eat their offspring, the infants who were born healthy? Should priest and prophet be killed in the sanctuary of the Lord? On the ground in the streets lie young and old. My virgins and my young men are fallen by the sword. You have killed them in the day of your anger. You have slaughtered, not sparing. You called as in the day of an appointed time, my terrors on every side. And there was no one who escaped or survived in the day of Yahweh's anger. Those whom I gave birth to and reared, my enemy consumed them. All right. So a lot happens there. There's kind of a shift a bit in like the direction of the poem. And where would that be?
So it seems to me, verses 1 through 9 are focusing on Yahweh's anger.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you hit verse 10, it almost kind of starts turning into like verses like 10 through maybe 16 are kind of like a taunt against Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
And then going back like verse 17 through the end, it turns the attention back to God again.
Yeah.
To where, but like it's like a mix to where like on one hand it's saying God has done what he said he was going to do, but then they also plead to God and like say like help us out. And like say almost like God have compassion on your people, like look at what's happening. To where it's they're like, it seems like there's like three kind of sections there.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's what you're going for, but
No, yeah, that's good. In general, I guess I was just thinking like,
And it also kind of seems like an evolution in thought, whereas the first one you're kind of mourning, and you're like, how can we repent of our iniquities? How can we have our souls filled? And there, it kind of seems like in the second chapter that they're like going, oh, God is the only one who can repair our iniquities and fix our problems. So it seems like they're turning the page in the right direction, to me at least.
yeah, it seems almost like chapter 1 was more from the perspective of the city. Chapter 1 is from the perspective of the city itself, so it's literally from the perspective of a person who is dying, right? Whereas chapter 2 is more from the perspective of the person who's doing the killing, and so it's God himself afflicting them with anger, and then like kind of taunting them a little bit, but then he's also hearing their compassion at the end. So it's like, whereas the perspective seems to be more directly from Jeremiah himself in chapter 2.
yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the main thing I was gonna was get at was that the first chapter seems like it's more from like within like the city itself talking, whereas chapter 2 is more of like an outsider perspective. So like Jeremiah looking at what's going on and pleading on behalf of them.
And then in 2, I would, and again it is Jeremiah, but after we went through Jeremiah, I would argue a little bit that Jeremiah, we know, is weeping prophet. He did not want to, I would argue it's more from God's perspective, because he did not necessarily want to, say these things or give these proclamations. Sometimes he's like, God, do I have to?
Well, I was saying it's from his perspective just because it is spoken in the first person.
Yeah.
To where, like I was saying, where it says, like, verse 11, my eyes fail because of tears. My inmost being is greatly disturbed.
Okay, that
So
part,
it's more like-
okay, that part makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, to where, like, in this instance, he's functioning more like a normal prophet. Whereas, like, he's just declaring this is what God is doing. And so, like, verse 1, how the Lord has covered the daughter of Zion with a cloud of his anger. The imagery, it kind of rings like the Exodus.
Yeah.
But to me, like, I don't know if y'all kind of got this, but, like, it almost feels like a reversal of God's provision in the wilderness. Like in the Exodus, when they're in the wilderness, the cloud is like a comforting thing because God's like covering them and he's protecting them. But now it's a cloud of God's anger. And he's casting from heaven to earth the beauty of Israel instead of like manna. He's casting like their beauty away,
It's also interesting because he does say from heaven to earth, so it's like the beauty of Israel was in heaven.
Yeah,
Being cast down.
he's basically made them like nobody, like he's made them like the other nations.
Yeah.
And then like you go to verse 2.
It is almost like Babel too, like how Babel was like up to
yes.
the heavens and he like cast them.
Yes. How far you have fallen, O son of the dawn.
Yeah.
And then verse 2, the Lord has swallowed up, he has not spared. Like to me that brings together the imagery of the people who were swallowed up in the wilderness. Again, I don't know if that's intentional, but to me it's almost like you're seeing the worst moments from the wilderness being replayed, but that's like describing how God it's also very common imagery for destruction from a Hebrew perspective, but
yeah, I guess whenever I read it, I thought of like Jonah specifically.
okay.
Just because that's when I think of swallowed up,
Yeah.
and it makes sense because like whenever I think of Jonah, I think of it as like whether or not it's like a parable or a historical story, it is like a metaphor where like Jonah is Israel,
Yeah.
and Jonah was given a specific task to go to the nations, but he went the other direction. But God had a specific calling for Jonah / Israel, and so he didn't he pushed them back in the right direction. But essentially in Jonah, the whole thing is like the swallowing up, like the exile had to happen in order for them to get to where they needed to be.
Yeah.
And so in the same way, like God has to swallow up all of Israel, like this swallowing up this death, this exile. It has to happen. It had to happen in order for them to actually go and do what they had to do.
And you get the same swallowed up language again in verse 5.
Yeah, it pops up several times.
Yeah. And then verse 4, he has bent his bow like an enemy. This is like terrifying language from a biblical perspective, just because whenever you think of God with a bow, what you're supposed to think of is the story of the flood in Genesis.
That's true.
Where God explicitly says, I have hung my bow in the clouds. Because God's bow, like we think of it the rainbow, right? But the Hebrew word is just the bow. It refers to an archer's bow. And so God literally is saying, I'm hanging my bow in the clouds. The idea is I'm not judging y'all anymore. My bow's hanging on the wall. When it's in his hands, you need to be afraid. But if it's hanging on the wall, he's not using it anytime soon. And so the rainbow represents the fact that God's withholding his judgment. But in verse 4, he has bent his bow like an enemy. So it's God has taken the bow off the wall and he's shooting arrows at them. And then verse 5, this is scary. The Lord has become like an enemy. He has swallowed up Israel. He has swallowed up all its palaces. He has brought its strongholds to ruin. Multiplied in the daughter of Judah mourning and moaning. The Lord has become like an enemy. That's a scary phrase.
Yeah.
Especially whenever you consider the fact that he didn't do this without cause, right? They can't say, God, why the heck are you doing that? It's like we pushed him to this. That's the scary thing. It's it was their actions that pushed him to be like an enemy, and now that he is like an enemy, it's oh shoot, what have we done? It's oh no, this is they took advantage of his hesed, right? It's they took advantage of his mercy and grace, and they thought they could keep on sinning because they knew that his hesed was multiplied to the thousands. But they forgot the last part of the whole Exodus 34 thing where he says, but I will by no means leave the guilt of the transgressions of the guilty unpunished or whatever. And so it's they pushed him too far, right? He's slow to anger, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have anger.
Yeah.
And it was they took it too far. And that's why that phrase is so scary, because it takes a lot to make God like an enemy. But they did it. And that's where it's just oh no. He has violently treated... so verses 6 through 9 turn the attention specifically to God destroying his holy places.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he has violently treated his tabernacle like a garden booth. Right? Which you just tear those up and down, right? Like the idea is little structures that you put in gardens to help plants grow the right way and stuff. You just tear those and tear those down, put them up how you need them. But that's how he's treating his temple. They don't even call it the temple; they call it the tabernacle, because the tabernacle brings up the mind of a tent.
Yeah.
And they thought the temple was this amazing thing that could never be torn down. Turns out it was just another tabernacle, and God tore it down as easily as you tear down a garden booth. It's that's terrifying. He's brought his appointed meeting place to ruin. So that's again to the temple. He has caused to be forgotten the appointed time and Sabbath in Zion. Right? So appointed time would be just different feasts and stuff.
Yeah.
And festivals, so Passover, tabernacles. And then the Sabbath that's even sadder because it's the idea of rest. Like, literally, there's no rest. Well, I guess the land knows nothing but rest, but there's no rest for the people. Because there ain't no rest for the wicked, you know. No, but so they're in exile, they don't get Sabbath anymore, right? Like, that was a privilege of what God had given them. It's not like they can't go over to the Babylonians and say, hey, I know that we're exiles, but, like, God demands we take a day off. Like you can't do that. That was a product of your freedom. But now they don't have Sabbath, right? And that's just what's happened. So it's ironic because he commanded them to keep the Sabbath. And even in Jeremiah, he was like, why aren't you keeping the Sabbath? And like, it's almost like, it almost changes how you read it in Jeremiah, because it's almost like God's desperate, being like, guys, you're not going to be able to enjoy the Sabbath for that much longer. You better keep it while you can.
Yeah.
And like, if you keep it, then I'll spare you and I won't exile you. But like, if you don't keep it, then you ain't going to have rest for a while. Mm-hmm. And then if you keep reading verses 6, 7, 8, 9, he rejected his altar, he's abandoned his sanctuary, he's brought to ruin the wall of the daughter of Zion. So he's basically he's dismantling the whole place, right? The temple, the altar, the walls of the city, all of it's falling. And then verses 10 through 16, like I said, this is where it almost turns into like a taunt, it seems to me. Like, verse 10 is just describing like the grief of like the elders, right? They're sitting down, they're crying, they're weeping. And then like the virgins of Jerusalem have bowed their heads down to the ground. So it's just like describing like how sad they are.
Yeah.
And then verse 11 seems like it's Jeremiah just saying how sad he is. Like, in that language, I could be wrong, but it almost seems like it's ripped straight from the book of Jeremiah. I feel like I've read those words before. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that could be.
I'd have to go look it up. But like, my eyes fail because of tears. My inmost being is greatly disturbed. My heart is poured out on the earth. Or that could just be stuff that's very similar to the Psalms or something like that.
Yeah, it could be.
And so Jeremiah, or the author, is being torn up over what he's seeing here. And then he talks about, like the infants and nursing babes. They're saying to their mothers, where is the grain and wine? And obviously, babies aren't, like, alcoholics, but like the idea is that they're just looking for something to sustain themselves.
Yeah, mommy, where's our food?
Yeah.
It's like
it's sad.
Yeah.
Like, where's food? As they faint like a wounded man in the open squares of the city, as their life is poured out on their mother's bosom. So the idea is just like these innocent babies just dying in their mother's laps, and right there you think, oh, that's so sad. But by the time you get to the end of the chapter, you're going to see what the mothers are doing with their dead babies. And it gets really dark.
13 is almost like earlier in chapter 1, but like from Jeremiah's perspective. He's like almost agreeing with Jerusalem, saying like, yeah, like there is no pain like your pain.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I think like that's where you see the shift to like it's about to get kind of like taunting a little bit. Because it's like you see verses like 10 and 11 are focusing on like the compassion for the people.
Yeah.
And then verse 12 is describing like their situation. Verse 13, what shall I testify about you? How do I equate you, O daughter of Jerusalem? To what shall I liken you as I comfort you? Like who can heal you, right? That's the same question he asked in the book of Jeremiah, right? It's like there is no balm in Gilead, or they need one. But then that leads to verse 14. Like, he asked who can heal you, but it's not your leaders, right? Your prophets have beheld for you worthless and ineffective visions. They have not uncovered your iniquity so as to return you from captivity, but they have beheld for you worthless and misleading oracles. So this is where he's kind of taunting them. Like, in the midst of the compassion, he's like, who can help you? It's not the prophets. They led you astray. It's like, where I guess there is a way where you could read this in a compassionate way, but the wording of it would seem to me that this is where he's kind of almost putting his foot down, and he's just like giving, like, he's telling them some hard stuff, right? It's not the prophets. They can't help you. All who pass along the way clap their hands in derision at you. They hiss and shake their heads at the daughter of Jerusalem. Is this the city of which they said, the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? So he's like, people are walking by you, and they're saying, what, this is the... I thought y'all said the city was a big deal. It's a heap of ruins. That place is terrible. So he says, people are mocking you. Yeah, your prophets, they lied to you. All your enemies have opened their mouths wide against you. They hiss and gnash their teeth. They say, we have swallowed her up. Surely this is the day which we have hoped. We have found it. We have seen it. So I think there's like a shift here to where it's like, if you read verses 10 through 16, like just like flowing through, it's almost like it starts like, it's almost like Jeremiah himself going on a journey where it's like, you see his heart of compassion for the first like verse 10, 11, 12. And then verse 13, as he just like turns and looks at Jerusalem and says, what shall I compare you to? It's almost like all of a sudden he's beginning to like, it's almost like he's ascending and now viewing them from God's perspective. And then verses like 14, 15, and 16, he's doing the job of a prophet and getting onto them. Right? But like, to be fair, both things are the prophet's job. The prophet he's a mediator, right? So he's supposed to feel immensely for the people and feel immensely for God. And so he's supposed to advocate for the people and for God. Right? And so on one hand, he sees the people suffering and he's like, man, I hate you're going through this. But then he looks at them and he's like, however, you did this to yourself and you trusted in leaders who I told you not to listen to. They led you astray and now everybody's mocking you. And that leads to verse like 17 and onwards where they just turn back to God. Yahweh has done what he purposed. He has completed his word, which he commanded from days of old. He has pulled you down without sparing. He has caused the enemy to be glad over you. He has exalted the might of your adversaries. He's like, let's be clear here. God did this, and he did exactly as he said. Which is ironic, because like in the midst of all this grief, he's really encouraging them to trust in God. Right?
Yeah.
But like he's saying, hey, just so you know, it was your God who did this to you. But he said he was going to do it. And so this is actually a sign of his faithfulness.
Yeah.
So rather than being angry at him, you should trust in him. Because y'all have been faithless, but he's just been doing exactly what he said. Like I know you are surprised, and I know there's no pain to match your pain, but you weren't without warning. So it's like, yeah. It's like, I hate it for you, but this is like, it's what you needed.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to look at these final verses so we can get to chapter 3. Their heart cried out to the Lord, O wall of the daughter of Zion. Let your tears run down like a river day and night. Give yourself no relief. Let your eyes not be still. So are they calling God the wall of the daughter of Zion here? In verse 18?
Verse 18.
Because it says, their heart cried out to the Lord, O wall of the daughter of Zion. Like, because if so, that's kind of cool. Because it implies like that there is like a shift here. Because like back in verse 8, God is ripping down the walls of the daughter of Zion. So like the walls of Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's almost like they're saying, you are our ultimate wall. Like I don't know if that's what they're doing, or like I don't know if they're like saying that God, you're ultimately the wall that protects us. Let your tears run down like a river day and night. Give yourself no, like the idea is like, God, have compassion on us. I don't know. Just because it says they're crying out to the Lord. But,
yeah, that's true.
I'm not sure.
That's a good question.
Arise, cry aloud in the night at the head of the night watches. Pour out your heart like water before the presence of the Lord. It makes me think not. Just because right there it says before the presence of the Lord.
Yeah. See that part, it sounds like it's Jeremiah again, because then it just continues on and say, lift up your hands to him. And then verse 20 is, see, O Yahweh, and look. Like, it's almost like he's telling the people to cry out to God, and then God's saying, well, God, look at these people. Like, he's almost like kind of turning to both of them.
Yeah, that's interesting. The phrase see and look, I just want to highlight, that calls back, I mean, that was in chapter 1 as well. Where was that? Verse 11, see, O Yahweh, and look, for I am despised. I thought there was another place where it said that as well.
The see, O Yahweh, and look.
Yeah. But like the phrase see, O Yahweh shows up a bunch. It shows up in chapter 1 verse 9. It shows up in chapter 1 verse 20. Mm-hmm. But just see and look. Just because that stood out to me when we were going through it. But anyways. So he says, God, look at this. Sorry, verse 20. See, O Yahweh, and look, with whom have you dealt thus? Should women eat their offspring, the infants who were born healthy?
Cannibalism.
So, like, the last time we saw women in the story, they were holding infants who were, like, they were healthy infants who died of starvation and stuff in this because of the siege, right? And now we go back to those women, and they're not looking like grieving mothers anymore, are they? Now
there's
they're eating their infants.
Isn't there a
healthy.
story in Second
Yeah.
Kings about this where?
Well, it's referenced in the second. Yeah.
No, it's like
Yeah.
it's like the two women. How like one says, "Okay, today we'll eat your son, then tomorrow will be
Yeah.
eat my son." Then yes, you know the story.
Yeah, and so that's exactly what it's referencing, and that's stuff that was promised in Deuteronomy,
Yeah.
right? That this was part of the curse, that you would see how bad it got whenever women started eating their children. Should priest and prophet be killed? And again, it's because there's no food in the city. This is what happens in siege, where like there's no food, and their reasoning is, well, the babies are dead, and as much as we love them, they're dead, and so which is even worse because it's like. No, I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to get into the culinary practices of eating corpses. But,
okay.
I mean, no matter what, if you're eating... Never mind.
Okay. Move on.
You have to move on.
But I just want to highlight that, like, it's just...
It's disgusting.
No, I just want to highlight the imagery. I think that it's very, like poignant how the last time we saw these women, you had so much compassion for them, right? You were like, oh, like it's just like this heartbreaking image of, like, a woman like with her mother, a woman like with her child dying in her arms. Like it's almost like you're watching a TV show and it cuts to commercial break, right? It dies in this moment where it's like, or look, it cuts to commercial break at the moment whenever this baby's dying in the woman's arms, and then it returns from commercial break and she's eating the child.
Ooh.
You're like it's like shocking because it scares you. You're like, whoa, like this is messed up, and it immediately transforms how you see the entire situation, right?
Yeah.
On one hand, you had so much compassion. And then you have nothing but disgust because of how sinful this person is. And like I think that's the effect it has in the poem too. Right? You're like, oh, this poor woman, I can't believe she has to go through this. And then Jeremiah's like, God, they're eating the baby. And it's like, oh my. Like it's like it really shocks you, and it forces you to look from God's perspective. To where you're like, oh, these people deserve what's coming upon them. Should priest and prophet be killed in the sanctuary of the Lord? On the ground, in the streets, lie young and old, my virgins and my young men have fallen by the sword. You have killed them in the day of your anger. You have slaughtered, not sparing. The idea is that, like in chapter 1, he was talking about Jerusalem being like empty and vacant.
Yeah.
But chapter 2, he says it's filled with corpses.
Yeah.
It's like, so, like it's empty of life, but it's filled with death. You called as in the day of an appointed time, my terrors on every side, and there was no one who escaped or survived in the day of Yahweh's anger. Those whom I gave birth to and reared, my enemy consumed them. So earlier he said that God has put an end to all the appointed times. He said, well, you did reserve one appointed time, and that was the appointed time of terror on every side. So it's like God canceled all the holidays except for the holiday of judgment. It's like Passover's canceled, Tabernacles is canceled. What about Judgment Day? Oh no, that's still going on. We're the burning, the day of Yahweh's burning anger. That's still on, and we're on schedule. So that's like, I don't know. There's like this poetic like irony to it. It's like, oh, God canceled all the holidays except for like the worst one. Which there is a truth to that even to this day, because once again, the 9th of Av, the day that they mourn the destruction of the temple, that is the saddest day in the Jewish calendar even to this day.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You get down. He wants to get on the couch as well to do it.
That's true.
All right.
It's 3-4. Dang.
Alright.
Sucks that chapter 3 is the long one.
Yeah, we could probably read through it and introduce it, and we might have to like just kind of like
Yeah.
half it.
You want to
Which
do
is
it more in detail next week, or we just?
No,
Gonna
I think that
kinda
we'll just
patch it?
we'll probably just do half this week and then half like
Yeah.
the book is 5 chapters, so getting through 2.5 chapters kind of is halfway.
Yeah.
I say we read through the entire thing, and then we'll just get through as much as we can, and we'll
Yeah.
just pick up next week.
Yeah. I'll just preface before you hop in. So, aside from just the immediate context of Israel, Jerusalem, and the Israelites and God there, I would also say that, and we'll talk about this maybe more towards the end, but as far as application goes, and like for us, I do think that you could kind of personify this as like, this is kind of a metaphor for like the effects that sin has on us. And so like,
It does have a quick.
how do I put this? The way that Jerusalem is described as mourning over its situation is the same, is kind of the similar, is similar to how as humans we all have to deal with our sin.
We do.
Like at least apart from God, like well, I don't know if I'd say that. I would say for us, it's probably more comparable to like in general like human suffering, like, and it can be both things that God has allowed to happen, but also things that God said would happen. And I think in chapter 3, we're gonna get, like, it's the middle of the book, we're gonna get kind of a twist / like kind of answer, and the logic is kind of almost backwards than what you typically think. We've kind of already talked about it a bit, but it's gonna be important for us to remember as we go through it. But is there anything else you want to mention before we hop in?
I think the one thing that I would highlight is that the sorry, you bees man, a knucklehead, get up here. The one thing I highlight is that we talked about this with Jeremiah, but people nowadays have a very good habit of like the only verses they memorize in the Bible are positive ones. And as Sean reads through this, he is going to read the only verse that you have probably ever heard quoted from Lamentations. And that is because it is the only verse that is positive, like that is overtly positive. Like we've already seen some positive stuff, but it is the only verse that is overtly extremely positive in the book. And I just want to highlight that it's a great verse, and we're going to talk about it, but try to pay attention to it in its context in the poem, because we talked about this in Jeremiah. Jeremiah, probably more than any other prophet, gets mad at people for only hanging on to the good stuff. Like he gets so mad, he's like, guys, why do you only listen to the prophets who say good things, and you ignore the prophets who say bad things? And then the greatest irony of that is that the only verses that people know from Jeremiah and Lamentations are the positive ones, and that's because Jeremiah, by and large, was the weeping prophet who said negative things. I don't want us to be like that. I want us to, adhere to the whole counsel of God. So we're going to talk about that verse, and we're going to talk about how amazing it is, but let's talk about it in its context and pay attention to all the verses around it as well. Because we don't want to act like that verse is the only one that's good in this whole book. Every verse is good, and every verse is worth studying. And if you're going to memorize it, memorize the other verses too. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And realize it's probably a conclusion / response to something that may not be as overtly good.
Yes.
But yeah. Okay, we'll go ahead and hop in because it's 66 verses.
Good luck.
I am the man who has seen affliction because of the rod of his wrath. He has driven me and made me walk in darkness and not in light. Surely against me he has turned his hand repeatedly all the day. He has caused my flesh and my skin to waste away. He has broken my bones. He has besieged and encompassed me with gall and hardship. Dark places he has made me inhabit. Like those who have been long dead, he has walled me in so that I cannot go out. He has made my chain heavy. Even when I cry out and call for help, he shuts out my prayer. He has blocked my ways with cut stone. He has made my paths crooked. He is to me like a bear lying in wait, like a lion in secret places. He has turned aside my ways and torn me to pieces. He has made me desolate. He bent his bow and set me as a target for the arrow. He made the arrows of his quiver to enter into my inward parts. I have become a laughingstock to all my people, their music of mockery all the day. He has saturated me with bitterness. He has sated me with wormwood. He has broken my teeth with gravel. He has made me cower in the dust. My soul has been rejected from peace. I have forgotten goodness. So I say, my strength has perished, as well as my hopeful waiting, which comes from Yahweh. Remember my affliction and my homelessness, the wormwood and gall. Surely my soul remembers and is bowed down within me. This I will return to my heart. Therefore I will wait in hope. The hesed of Yahweh indeed never cease, for his compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Yahweh is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I wait for him. Yahweh is good to those who hope in him, to the soul who seeks him. It is good that he waits silently for the salvation of Yahweh. It is good for a man that he should bear the yoke in his youth. Let him sit alone and be silent, since he has laid it on him. Let him put his mouth in the dust. Perhaps there is hope. Let him give his cheek to the one who strikes him. Let him be saturated with reproach. For the Lord will not reject forever. For if he causes grief, then he will have compassion, according to his abundant hesed. For he does not afflict from his heart, or grieve the sons of men, to crush under his feet all the prisoners of the land, to deprive a man of justice in the presence of the Most High, to defraud a man in his legal case. These things the Lord does not see with approval. Who is there who speaks, and it happens, unless the Lord has commanded it? Is it not from the mouth of the Most High that both calamities and good go forth? Why should any living person or any man complain because of his sins? Let us search out and examine our ways, and let us return to Yahweh. We lift up our heart to our hands toward God in heaven. We have transgressed and rebelled. You have not pardoned. You have covered yourself with anger and pursued us. You have killed and not spared. You have covered yourself with a cloud so that no prayer can pass through. You have made us mere scum and refuse in the midst of the peoples. All our enemies have opened their mouths against us. Panic and pitfall have befallen us. Devastation and destruction. My eyes run down with streams of water because of the destruction of the daughters of my people. My eyes pour down unceasingly without stopping. Until Yahweh looks down and sees from heaven, my eyes deal severely with my soul because of all the daughters of my city. My enemies without cause hunted me down like a bird. They have silenced my life in the pit and have placed a stone on me. Waters flowed over my head. I said, I am cut off. I called on your name, O Yahweh, out of the lowest pit. You have heard my voice. Do not hide your ear from my prayer for relief, from my cry for help. You drew near when I called on you. You said, do not fear. O Lord, you have pleaded my soul's cause. You have redeemed my life. O Yahweh, you have seen my oppression. Judge my case. You have seen all their vengeance, all their purposes against me. You have heard their reproach, O Yahweh, all their purposes against me. The lips of those who rise against me and their whispering are against me all day long. Look on their sitting and their rising, I am their mocking song. You will recompense them, O Yahweh, according to the work of their hands. You will give them dullness of heart. Your curse will be upon them. You will pursue them in anger and destroy them from under the heavens of Yahweh. Alrighty. It's actually not too bad because I guess the verses are pretty short.
Yeah. It seemed like it was honestly about the same length as the other ones.
Yeah.
Like,
Could be. That's good.
Okay.
yeah.
Just shorter verses.
Yeah, it makes me wonder why they did that. Like, why they numbered them differently, because they're 2-line verses, whereas the other ones were 6-line verses.
Mm-hmm.
So it adds up to being the same.
Interesting.
Like,
That's
more
true.
or less.
Worked out.
I don't know why they numbered that differently. It's like, it's weird. Unless, maybe, I wonder if, I'll look it up in Hebrew. I wonder if it's like, you know, like for each, like how it's an acrostic, I wonder if, like, there's 3 lines beginning with Aleph, and then 3 lines beginning with Bet, and 3 lines beginning with Gimel. You know what I mean?
Oh, gotcha.
They might be numbering it according to where they,
Yeah, that's true. I am, he has, or driven, and then
Toward, like,
surely.
each one starts, yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Doesn't look like that's what's going on, so I have no idea.
Anywho, so there's a lot that happens, so it's not necessarily summarizable in one sentence, but what happens? Who's talking?
Alright, just an update, that is what happened there, just so you know. Like, it is like,
A.
yes, yeah, so basically this is like a super acrostic, to where it's like, it's A, BBB, GGG, DDD, like,
Okay.
yeah, so. Okay, sorry, anyways, you asked what happens?
Yeah, as broadly speaking.
I took notes. So, broadly speaking, verses 1 through 18 are basically Jeremiah lamenting, like, the yoke that is upon him
Yeah.
as a result of all that's going on.
And then doesn't he talk about like a restoration later and then judgment on the enemies for the third part?
Yeah, so, well, I've got it broken into 4 parts.
Okay.
So, verses 1 through 18 is the yoke of Jeremiah. And then verses 19 through 39, he kind of takes, like, he turns to Yahweh's faithfulness,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he just starts talking about how God can be trusted in the midst of this, and that God's in control. And then verses 40 through 48, he says, Judah, let's consider our ways, right? And he kind of just talks about, we deserve what's coming upon us. But then that leads him at the end of the chapter, verses 49 through 66, to talk about the hope of deliverance. Like the idea that, like, yes, he has this yoke upon him, but because God is faithful, in spite of Judah's sin, they can trust that if they turn to God, he will take care of them and deliver them. So it's like, there's like a little flow of thought there to where it's like, he's basically saying that he's going through it with them, and he honestly probably has it even worse than them because he's innocent in all of this. But he says if he can trust that God can provide, then they can too. But all they have to do is turn to him. Like, that's kind of like the thrust of it.
Yeah.
Which is cool because it's kind of a blend of chapters 1 and 2. Because like chapter 1 is like from Jerusalem's perspective. Chapter 2 is like from God's perspective, and then chapter 3 is just from the prophet's perspective. And it's almost like showing like how a godly person works through difficulty. Which is cool.
Yeah, and like the middle part seems to be like kind of the climax / like turning point.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of what anchors everything together.
Yeah.
Like it contextualizes it. Well, not contextualizes, but yeah, it's like the perspective you need to kind of handle everything.
Yeah.
Was it verses 22 and 23 that you said were taken out of context?
I didn't say they're necessarily taken out of... Well, I guess they are taken out of context just by means of only being quoted in isolation.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the verses that people love to... Really, it's honestly verses 22 through 27. Like, that entire section is the stuff that people like to quote. But yeah, that's the ones that people love to just... you'll slap that on an Instagram bio or something like that.
Their passions never fail. They are new every morning.
That's a great promise,
Yeah.
but it's best understood in the context. Especially whenever you realize that like he's writing from a context where that is not at all evident.
Wow.
Right? It's like people love quoting that, being like, "Oh, God's mercies are new every morning," and it's like as they're like sipping their latte or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like Jeremiah is saying this as the city is burning down around him. Like he's like that. That's very different. It's kind of like that one song I get so annoyed by, like the
Reckless.
No, not that one. No, it's the song that goes like, "I'm so blessed." It's like literally, it's just, "I'm so blessed, hallelujah, I'm blessed, I'm so blessed." Like, it just repeats that a million times. I can't stand the song, but what I can't stand even more is the music video. Because the music video is just a bunch of upper middle class white folk in like skinny jeans, hanging out in this like retro house, and they're like playing all their instruments, electric instruments, mind you, and at the end of the song, they jump into a pool with the electric guitar stuff.
No.
And so like basically it's like these people who have so much money that they can literally just jump into a pool and ruin all their stuff. And they're singing, "I'm so blessed," hallelujah. Like it makes me mad because I'm like, what? Like it basically just implies that blessing is literally just like chilling out. But the thing that would actually make me like that song is if the music video was from the perspective of like a person over in Nigeria who is like literally like walking through the streets at nighttime just trying to meet up with his church. And as he's walking, "I'm so blessed, hallelujah, I'm blessed." Like, that would change things because now it's like saying like, "I'm blessed in the midst of this." And that changes the context. So like, that's why I get frustrated when people quote this out of context because they usually just mean like, it's just a feel-good thing. It's like, "Oh, his mercies are new every morning." It's like, okay, but from Jeremiah's perspective, like, his home is burning down around him. His love, like, his closest friends are already being carried away. Like, Daniel's already over in Babylon, right? Like his friends and his loved ones, they're already gone. He is one of the few who remains. And he knows that they deserve this and that they're not coming back anytime soon. He knows that he is going to die before anybody comes back.
Yeah.
And then in the midst of that, he says, "His mercies are new every morning." Like, that changes how it hits.
Yeah. And it's also, like, from like the personal perspective of him, the last verses before that section, it either is or at least feels like God's like almost completely cut off from him.
Yes.
Or like he's cut off from God.
Yeah, literally verses 1 through 18 is him being like, "I have no joy. Life is terrible. I have never felt so much pain in my life."
Well, he says like God like, has put a cloud where like prayers can't reach him.
Yes.
Like he can't contact God.
Yeah. Well, it's like in the middle of Psalm 22. It's like David's like, my God, why have you forsaken me?" He goes on this long thing, and he's like, "But man, you're good." It's like it feels almost out of place in the context, especially because it's such an abrupt shift. Like verse 18 to verse 19, it just like, well, I guess it's even a little bit after that. I guess it's really verse 21 is where the shift really begins, but
yeah.
Yeah.
You can like kind of see it in verse 18 because he mentions the hopeful waiting, even though it's like saying it's perished. It seems like that's when he starts shifting towards like he's like hoping. He's got that thing he clings on to.
Yeah.
Which is God's faithfulness.
Yeah. Which is also cool, especially because you were highlighting, like, in the present, he doesn't feel close to God at all.
Yeah.
But his confidence is rooted in hope. It's like he's saying, you know what? Yeah, I don't feel God. You feel so far away. I feel like my prayers aren't even reaching you right now. But I know you're good. And therefore, I'm going to delight in who you are. Like that's cool.
And ironically, part of the reason he knows that God is faithful is because of what's happening.
Yeah.
That's why I say it is almost a twist, especially for like modern application, but like it's just funny logic, because his logic is like, well, if God's causing the grief, that means he also he'll be faithful to both ends of the bargain.
Well, I think like you have to be careful with this, because I mean, at least in the context of like Jeremiah, there were explicit prophecies saying Jerusalem will fall, but to a degree, in our like modern application, it could be whenever you are being pressed on all sides and you're experiencing the discipline of the Lord.
Mm.
And you like, there's been times in my life where I'm like, man, like it seems like just like every single thing is going wrong, but then I'm like, but like in the midst of that, you're like, this is God's faithfulness. Like it's like you're his child and he's disciplining you, and in the middle of it, you're like, I am having the worst day ever, but it kind of reminds me that God's faithful and like he's doing this. Like I'm gonna come out the other end more faithful to him, and like it's like in the midst of it, like you're literally having the worst possible day, but in the midst of that, you're like, man, he actually is good, isn't he?
Yeah.
Whereas I think whenever you're having the best day ever, you just don't even stop to think about him.
Yeah. It's almost like if you realize that, if God is disciplining me, that means that he is my father.
Yes.
And if he is my father, that also means if I turn back to him, that he will accept me.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're just like outright living in sin and nothing's happening, you're probably like, wait a second. But like if there's like stuff where like, you know, you've been growing in pride, and like maybe your anger's getting the best of you, like these little sins have been like cropping up, and then all of a sudden like all of it's just like collapsing in on one day. It's like, okay, this is good. This is you know what? I deserve to be spanked around. Like that's always my joke, is that like I can never learn a lesson easily. Like God has to like kick me to the ground and like punch me around a little bit. But like I always come out the other end happy that he did that, because I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's what I needed. Like I needed some tough love. I didn't need like a, you know, like nowadays like parents are like, oh well, hey, you shouldn't have said that word, and I'm gonna, you know, you don't get to play with your Xbox tonight. It's like, no, like sometimes you need a parent who will just like be like, you know what, I'm gonna spank you, and I'm gonna spank you hard. You know what, I'm gonna go to the front yard, I'm gonna grab a stick, and we're gonna go to town. Like,
yeah,
like sometimes that's what you need, and there's times where like you're getting spanked, and you're like, oh man, you're such a good parent. I don't think kids ever think that, but like, I think the longer I spend with God, the more grateful I become for his parenting. Usually it doesn't feel good in the moment, but it's kind of like this. I mean, with Jeremiah, it's much more extreme.
Long-term
change.
benefit.
Yeah. And again, you have to be very careful to not just like attribute every bad day to being like, oh, yep, like,
that's true.
You have to be careful because, you know, like, again, in Jeremiah's instance, it was explicitly prophesied, Jerusalem will fall. And so whenever it's falling, it is an explicit fulfillment of prophecy. But there is a degree to where we can kind of experience that today as well. It's like God will discipline you, and so if you needed to be disciplined, count it joy when you are being disciplined. Or even broader when you're facing trials, right? Like whenever you're being tested or persecuted or something like that. There's parts where you're like, you know what, this is good, because it'll shape me and refine me and make things to where I will trust God more in the future, and so you can rejoice in his goodness even whenever things feel absolutely like trash. So
yeah. It's more precious than gold.
Yep.
In this case,
by fire.
more precious than the gold that got pillaged from their temple.
Yeah.
Is refined.
It literally, like, it's also like being burned in fire, like Jerusalem being burned.
That's true.
Anyways, I guess we can walk through some of the early verses.
Yeah.
We got 5 minutes though.
That's fine.
Just saying.
What if we do 6 minutes?
I think we should go over.
David always wants to go over.
Heck yeah. Can't get tired of this. I am the man who has seen affliction because of the rod of his wrath. He has driven me and made me walk in darkness and not in light. Surely against me he has turned his hand repeatedly all the day. I feel like this chapter would go really good like some dude with like a really low voice. You know, just like, I I am the man who has seen affliction.
You know, those TikToks
You
that
could do like
where
a
the
J.K.
guy-
Simmons or something.
Yeah.
Where the guy sings like the whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. I just need.
The color.
Yeah. I just need somebody with like a really low voice, like just reflecting on like
The
life is
Doom.
hard. Like,
The
or-
Doom.
I need like Robert Pattinson with his like Batman voice to like just come in and read this.
I'm Batman.
Yeah.
But so I'm the man who has seen affliction. Like I think that really just sets it like sets the scene for the fact that this is from Jeremiah's perspective, right? Like he almost speaks to himself as an outsider who is watching all of this, right?
Yeah.
I am the man who has seen affliction because of the rod of his wrath, right? So it's not like he's not saying that he deserves it, right? He's not saying that like he wasn't participating with a group of disobedient people who merited this. But he is the one who bears the yoke of watching it. Which, again, is so intriguing from, like just what it means to be a prophet will never cease to fascinate me. I find it crazy cool and scary. But the idea is that he's literally watching, like he has this outsider's perspective, like almost like an otherworldly perspective where he's straddling the line between heaven and earth. And he's watching his best friend, God, destroy his hometown. And he's just like watching. He has driven me and made me walk in darkness and not in light. Like especially like you typically associate God with the light, and evil with the darkness. But from Jeremiah's perspective, it almost feels inverse, to where the path that God has set before him is not one of light; it's one of darkness. Like it would like he has access to the mind and the will and the desires of God, and typically we would call that illumination. But from his perspective, it's made things so much harder, right? Because like he doesn't have the privilege of ignorance, right? It's like ignorance is bliss. It's like he knows what's coming, he knows what's going to happen, and it makes it all the harder to experience. He has driven me, made me walk in darkness and not in light. Like everybody else has the all of his friends who don't, or all the people who don't believe him, they can go party and they can go drink and they can go have fun. He doesn't have that privilege. All he can do is think judgment is coming.
It's almost like a weird reversal of Jonah again. Just I guess it's stories in my head, but because like with Jonah, he went outside Nineveh to watch it, hopefully get destroyed by God, and God like I guess he put like a lamp over him, like a shade.
Yeah.
And like in that case, God didn't destroy them, but He wanted them to. In this case, it's kind of the opposite. Like Jeremiah is outside, like at least metaphorically, outside the city, watching it fall. He doesn't want them to get destroyed, but they are getting destroyed. But then, like, there is metaphor like a shade over him, like, blocking him, like a cloud over him, blocking him from God.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's at all like supposed to be compared here, but it's just kind of funny.
I doubt it's intentional, but it is a cool connection. It's like Jeremiah's being a faithful prophet, whereas Jonah was not. Like it's like okay, there's that. He has caused my flesh and my skin to waste away. Like it's crazy because nowadays, like, obviously he's just using as extreme language as possible, but it's ironic because like nowadays, like 2,000 years later or 2,500 years later, we've got imagery that just like captures it so much better. It's like the imagery of like a nuclear like a blast, like just the idea of like
someone. No, better yet, someone just. If you ever watched the show Chernobyl, better yet, just someone dying of radiation poisoning.
Yeah, but like that's kind of like the imagery. It's just he has caused my flesh and my skin to waste away. He has broken my bones. He has besieged and encompassed me with like not the city, me.
Yeah.
With gall and hardship. Like just the imagery is that like obviously Jeremiah's been faithful this whole time, but because Jeremiah belongs to Jerusalem and belongs to the people, it feels like God has made himself Jeremiah's enemy as well. But by the time you get to like verses like 19 and onwards and stuff, Jeremiah makes it clear, no, God's not my enemy, but it feels that way, right? Like if somebody is causing your bones to shrink, like if somebody were to come over to your house and say, hey, you want to hang out? And you're like, what do you want to do? And they're like, I don't know. I was thinking I'd break some of your bones and I would rip some of your skin off. And like you would be like, okay, well, you're not a cool person. I don't want to hang out with you, right?
Yeah.
Like you would typically not say that's my friend. And you would not say that person is good. But Jeremiah says both of these at the same time. He says, yes, you're the one breaking my bones. You're the one who's causing my flesh and skin to waste away. You're the one who is besieging and encompassing me. But then later on he's going to say, and you're amazing for it. It's like, wait, what? Like that's where it's like you gotta hold both of these in, like, but once again, it's because he knows this is necessary, and this is what God said he would do. And also keep in mind, earlier I was highlighting how sometimes your sin might cause an innocent person to suffer. It's also true, and you need to be fine with this, that other people's sin might cause you to suffer.
Exactly.
But the thing is, you can't complain about it, right? As Christians, we're not supposed to go around being like, well, I wouldn't be going through this if you hadn't messed up. No, because we're called to turn the other cheek, right? And we're supposed to willfully sacrifice ourselves for the sake of another. And ironically, just like fast forward a little bit here, later on it says, where was it? He literally said something that was literally like
the Jesus sounding one?
Yeah, well, it's like turn the cheek to the person.
Yeah.
Matthew was Sermon on the Mount. That's all I remember.
Well, no, but Jeremiah says, it's verse 30.
Okay.
Let him give his cheek to the one who strikes him. Let him be saturated with reproach. So Jeremiah hints at the same thing Jesus says, like turn the other cheek, right? So Jeremiah recognizes, even going back to like verse 4 and stuff, like he recognizes, Jerusalem isn't falling because of him. Jerusalem's falling because of everybody else, but he realizes that I'm suffering with them, and he's not holding it like, you don't see any bitterness here where he's like, man, I can't believe y'all are letting, like, no, he's like,
you're jerks.
This is part of what it means to be a person of God, is that you suffer for the sake of other people, right? And that's just something that we have to be content with as Christians and as followers of God. Sorry, I'm doing math problems to turn off this alarm because I always set
I
this.
thought the time on your Bible study clock went out.
Nope. Dark places he has made me inhabit, like those who have long been dead. So he compares himself to like a shade living in the afterlife, to where he doesn't even feel like he's alive anymore. It's like the idea is that he's been bearing this burden for so long, he doesn't even remember what it feels like to be alive. It's like this is just like great poetry in general. He has walled me in so I cannot go out. He has made my chain heavy. Like the imagery is, he's comparing himself to Jerusalem, right? Like Jerusalem is literally under siege, but Jeremiah feels like Jerusalem, to where like it's not the Babylonians laying siege to him, it's God. And God is laying siege to him, to where like he just feels like this heavy yoke, right? Like it's like slavery. Even when I cry out and call for help, he shuts out my prayer. He has blocked my ways with cut stone. He has made my paths crooked. Wait, but I thought the Bible said that he will direct your paths. Doesn't it say that in Proverbs, right? Trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your understanding, and he'll direct your paths. Well, Jeremiah says, well, he directed my paths. He made them crooked, right? He's flipping all this stuff on its head, right? Like the idea is like, God's supposed to be the one that you can trust in the deep dark valley. But Jeremiah is making it sound like, no, he's the thief who robs you at the bottom of the valley. Like, that's the imagery he's describing with God here. But again, later on, that's why the twist is so clever, because he's going to get to it and be like, no, God's amazing. And the whole twist here is like, no, it's people's sin that's the problem. And sometimes God has to respond certain ways because of sin, and if you have to suffer because of it, that's okay. That's another reason, like, spoiler alert for, like, if we ever get to Revelation, my position is not that we're going to be raptured away before the tribulation. My position is that we're going to be here the whole time. And that's because I don't see a theological problem with God asking us to suffer for the sake of other people, right? If God afflicts judgment on the earth, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't ask us to go through that, right? Jeremiah went through it. Why wouldn't we have to? But like that's a whole other point. I don't want to get distracted by that. Right. I'm just trying to get us through verse 18 real quick, and then we can wrap up. Just so that we can kind of like start like by recapping verses 1 through 18 next week, and then like jump into that.
That's a whole other thing in Revelation as to why I agree with that, but I'm not going to go into it.
I've got plenty of reasons for it, but yeah. Okay. He is to me, again, like just the imagery is crazy. Like the fact that he's describing God here. He is to me like a bear lying in wait, like a lion in secret places. He has turned aside my ways and torn me to pieces. He has made me desolate. He bent his bow and set me as a target for the arrow. Like, the idea is like he's almost like reversing the imagery. Like, whenever Jesus talks about being the good shepherd who goes and finds the lost sheep, he's almost describing God as somebody who came to him when he was found and helped him lose his way. Right? Like, he says, he has turned aside my ways and torn me into pieces. It's like, God's like, hey, you can follow me. And then he followed God, and God took him to like the middle of nowhere and then beat him up and left him. Like, it's almost like the opposite of the Good Samaritan story.
Yeah.
Like, that's how he's, like, describing it, to where he's like, yeah, God's the one who beat me up and left me there. And like, you're reading this and you're like this is dangerous theology if he doesn't get to verses 19 and onwards, right?
Yeah.
Like, to where, but and I think he's intentionally doing that, right? Like, this is why he's called the weeping prophet. Like, because poetry expresses emotion. And right now, he is simply saying how he feels. But all because you feel some way doesn't mean that that's, like, what's true.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that, like, that has to define how you view the world.
Yeah.
And so, right now, he's literally just describing this is how I feel. Right? I feel like God has given me the short end of the stick, and that life is not going good right now, and I feel that following God has only made my life harder, and it's almost like God is like an animal ready to pounce on me, and it's almost like he's got his bow pulled back, and the arrow's aimed at me, and he's just ready to fire at any moment. Like, that's how Jeremiah feels. And I think for anybody who's ever been in, like, ministry, it can feel like that often.
Okay.
But for Jeremiah, I like he has felt that to a way greater degree than I ever have. And probably ever will, because keep in mind, he's actively being thrown into cisterns, and he's watching his loved ones die, and he's watching women eat children, right? So, like, keep in mind, like, there's degrees here, right? Like, I mean, like, I think everybody in ministry probably feels this way to a degree, where it's like, man, life got harder once I started following God. And it's probably also true, even outside of ministry, just anybody who calls themselves a Christian. Life, if your life gets easier, you might not be following God.
Right.
Just, you know. But, all right. He made the arrows of his quiver to enter into my inward parts. So not only is he aiming the arrow at him, but he's causing that arrow to not just like scrape him. He's making the arrow pierce him down to the bowels, right? Like, the idea is like, God is a good target. He knows exactly where he's aiming. And Jeremiah says he's not just slightly like sliced. Like, Jeremiah's like, I can deal with some paper cuts, but he's piercing me to the heart. He's like, this hurts. I become a laughingstock to all my people. Their music and mockery all the day. That's probably just true, right? The idea is that, I mean, we saw this in Jeremiah. Like, people actively turned against him. They mocked him. They threw him into cisterns. And I don't know if we necessarily appreciate how isolating that would be. Like, for us, it's like, oh, just grin and bear it. Get through it. That would be hard. Like, imagine that, like, all you have is love and compassion for all these people, yet all they give you in return is just like hatred and scorn, and like that would be very hard and very isolating. Like, even if you had one really good friend in the midst of that, it'd be hard. Like, it just would like, and
they probably wouldn't want you. Like, it'd be hard for a lot of people to be friends with you because they would also get
the same
flack.
thing. And so like that, like just like the social stigma alone would be like enough to break somebody. But Jeremiah's going through the social stigma and all the other stuff alongside the burden of knowing what's to come.
Yeah.
He has saturated me with bitterness. He has sated me with wormwood. It's like, God's like, hey, Jeremiah, you want something to eat? Here's bitterness. Oh, you need something to cure your wound? Here's wormwood. Like other bitter stuff, right? Like, it's like, it's just making it worse.
Yeah.
Verse 16, I actually hear, this is another verse I do hear people quoting, but just because the imagery is so funny. This is like the verse that you should quote if you're ever trying to prove that not every single verse in the Bible needs to be taken 100% literally. Actually, pretty much all this. God is not literally shooting Jeremiah with arrows, just so you know. But this one, he has broken my teeth with gravel. He has made me cower in the dust. This is just really good poetry. Like, that's just like the imagery there, like just the idea of like, it's almost like God is feeding him gravel and forcing him to chew. To where he doesn't want to, but he's having to chew it, and like his teeth are just like breaking. Or I guess the imagery could also be of God just like grabbing his face and like shoving it into the ground.
Yeah.
It could be that as well.
I was like just thinking about that as like almost like curb stomping.
Yeah, like God curb stomped me. That's like, that actually probably makes more sense, especially because it says he has made me cower in the dust. Like, the idea is almost like God is like pushing him into the ground, and just like it sounds like he's like beating him up. Again, this is very like you don't want to write poems like this lightly, right?
Yeah.
There's a time and place for this, and whenever you like fail a biology exam is probably not the time and place. But I don't know. I think it's interesting. My soul has been rejected from peace. I have forgotten goodness. Like, man, Like, my soul has been rejected from peace. It's like he's like literally knocking at the doors of peace. He's like, hey, can I just have like a little bit of peace? And they're like, yeah, you're not welcome. It's like, peace is like, no, we don't want you. Please leave. I've forgotten goodness. And then you get verse 18. So verses 1 through 17 have all been, this is how I feel, this is how I feel, this is how I feel. And now the question becomes, how is he going to respond to how he feels?
Yeah.
And he says, so I say, my strength has perished, as well as my hopeful waiting, which comes from Yahweh. So that's not the most positive thing, because it almost says that it sounds like he's almost like running it, like he's at the end of his rope, right? He says, I don't have much left to go on, and like so his strength has perished and his hopeful waiting, where it's like, whoa, that's kind of scary. It's like he's like I don't know how much more I can bear.
Yeah.
But then, where we're going to pick up next week, that's a good little cliffhanger to leave us on, I think. But then you get to like verse 19 and onwards, and there's going to be a huge shift, which kind of governs the rest of not the rest of the chapter, but a good portion of the chapter. But yeah. Sorry, I went on a long explanation there, just trying to get us through a point. But,
yeah, no, you're good.
Y'all can add anything y'all want to add.
Good job not falling asleep this study.
Thank you. Yeah.
Wow. Thought it was worth falling asleep at? No, I'm kidding.
Nah.
Yeah.
A little bit of a second win there around like 8:55, 9.
So 12 minutes ago. Nice.
So just
Never mind. Ignore me.
Just to wrap up, so is there anything else you wanted to add here? Any like application? There's a lot more we could talk about for sure.
I'm not gonna like necessarily say like application, because I mean, I don't think God's gonna physically ask you to eat gravel or turn yourself into dust.
But if he did, you should do it.
I will say something myself. That one thing David was talking about earlier regarding, sin causes people to suffer, and it might work the other way around as well. That sounds like something that we could take into context as well. Just like in our daily lives. I'm sure that was already like established before, but just as a good reminder. Like if someone else's sin causes you to suffer, more specifically, like we shouldn't, complain about it, but as David said, we should be content with it.
Wait, because keep in mind, that's inherently part of love. Because
exactly.
Every single person who exists is a sinner. And so by choosing to love somebody, you are choosing to love somebody who will sin against you at some point.
Yeah.
Right? And you're going to sin against them too.
Okay.
And the thing is, whenever you sin against them,
It is made
do you want them to hold that against you forever?
No.
No. Right? And do unto others what you would have them do to you. Right? If you want people to forgive you when you sin against them, and if you want people to be gracious towards you whenever you have been ungracious towards them, then we should do the same, right?
Yes.
And so we just got to realize that, sometimes we will suffer on the behalf of innocent people, on the behalf of the sins of others, right? Like whether that be friends, whether that be a spouse, whether it be anything, people will do something against you, or that sometimes you might be affected by people you don't even know.
Exactly.
Right? But the call for us as Christians is to sacrificially serve people anyways. It is not our job to hold it over them. It is not our job to be like, well, you did this. No. Our job is to say, it's okay. And we just move on. Right? And then we go to God and we be like, you know what, God? This is pretty tough. But, you can write a poem like this and be like, God, man, I'm watching everything go badly and I'm suffering innocently. But at the same time, you got to trust in God in the midst of all that, which is what we're going to get to next week. But
Yeah.
ain't that right?
Anything else? Alrighty. I guess we can go ahead and end it there.
Did you have anything you want to say about verses 1 through 18? Because I kind of just ran wild with it, but
You're good. I mean, we can probably talk more about it like next week.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, we can go ahead and close out. Someone want to press out?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Lord, thank you for allowing us to apply this information in a way that would make sense to us, and thank you for allowing the study to grow us and sharpen us and mature us in a way that in our lives we will be able to apply this information. And please help us to apply it to the best of our ability and remember what you have told us. And thank you that you are with us at every minute to help us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen.